Welcome to another Professional Development Series episode with Attollo Prep. My name is Madison, and I'm the Director of 12th Grade Programs. So excited to be your host today. Joining me, we have another wonderful guest with us. I'd love it if everyone in the audience could give me a warm welcome for Jack Crowley.
Thank you.
So Jack, you are the president of Water Street Mission. We are very excited to have you with us today. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Perfect. All right, so my opening question, as always, when I bring guests in is, where are you from and what were some of your hobbies growing up?
Yeah, so I was actually born in Chicago.
Okay.
I was there just for a little while as a young kid and then moved to Media, Pennsylvania, which is right outside of Philadelphia.
Yep.
Spent a lot of time in my high school years heading into Philly and not always doing great things, but...
We could just say go Birds and move on.
Yeah, go Birds. But in media, probably I was the youngest of four brothers.
Okay.
So I did whatever my brothers were doing. I wanted to be just like them, and that meant lots and lots of sports, lots and lots of just being outdoors and doing crazy stuff and getting beat up a lot.
Gotcha.
So yeah, but we played, we were talking earlier,
Yes.
I played every sport under the sun at some level, whether it was club level or at school.
Very talented multi-athlete. A lot of sports under your belt.
Talented, I don't know. I played a lot of sports.
Okay.
So and maybe that's
Little
why.
asterisk
Maybe I
in
wasn't
there.
good enough, so they just said, hey, why don't you go try this one? But yeah, everything from soccer to football, basketball, baseball, lacrosse, volleyball. I've played competitively all of those sports. So
Wonderful. And you went to college?
at Franklin and Marshall,
Franklin
right here
Marshall,
in Lancaster.
yes, very close by to us. Wonderful. Okay, so I love to start with people's early journey, so that way we can get kind of a background into informing where you are in your life right now.
Yeah.
So you grew up, as you said, in Media, Pennsylvania. In the past, you've described it as kind of a comfortable suburban upbringing.
Yeah.
I'd love to chat about how someone coming from a background like that ends up in your life and your work, walking alongside people experiencing homeless, working with poverty and underserved communities. Talk to me a little bit about what that journey was like for you.
Yeah, so the shift from paying however much I was paying for F&M at the time to making way less than that per year at Water Street raised some eyebrows among friends and family when I first started. I mean, really at the root of it, my desire and why I ended up at Water Street was related to what I felt was a draw to work with youth.
Okay.
And that's what was my first job at Water Street, was a summer camp counselor. But it was really something that developed over time and really was informed by my faith. I worked at a camp in the Poconos in the summer, worked a lot with kids. That was where really my identity was formed, was through those years. And at F&M, I actually had the chance to study with a professor who was amazing. He's still there, Dr. Michael Penn, a psychology prof. And I was invited to be a part of a lot of research studies that he was doing. And for him, he studied adolescent psychology and adolescent psychopathology.
Okay.
And so we spent a lot of time actually interviewing kids who were in juvenile detention centers.
Oh, wow, a lot of field research.
And just one-on-one, sitting down with these kids. And one of the things that struck me in that moment, when I was trying to figure out where was life going to take me, how was I going to use...
college graduate crisis.
Yeah, like what's next? It was in those moments of sitting across from these kids and hearing stories that reminded me so much of myself.
Okay.
When I was in high school. I definitely, along with many of my friends, went through that phase of, saying this is who I was. I grew up in the church. I believed in Jesus. And I would lead Bible studies and then go out with my friends and get drunk and get high and do really stupid things. And what I heard across the table from me with so many of these kids was that same story. I'm hanging out with my friends, getting drunk, we were getting high, we were doing this, and somebody said, hey, let's go do this. And in that moment, like, oh yeah, let's I'm in. And how many times did that happen to me in high school? And never anything overly dramatic, never anything like super bad, but stupid stuff.
Sure.
Right?
And formative years.
And so often how I got away with it for multiple reasons. Partially because of the community I was living in, partially because of somebody from my church happened to be the chief of police in our small town. I had really good connections. I played the double life really well. So in school, they thought I was a great kid. They didn't know a lot of the stuff I was doing, so they stood up for me.
Sure.
So when I could have had my journey take me down one path, I had other people standing up for me, defending me for a second chance.
Yeah.
And these kids that I was talking with at the Children's Home of York and in Juvenile Detention Center in Delaware County, like, there was nobody there for them.
Yeah.
In so many of the stories that they told, it was the same beginning and then the turn. And for them, it meant they were getting locked up. And for them, then just those next natural steps, because everything around them was telling them, this is all you are. And this is all you can be. And they began to believe it and then live into it. And many of the kids who I was interviewing were going straight from juvenile lockup to jail.
Right.
And nothing between.
Yep.
No opportunities, no second chances. And as I saw that pattern, I'm like, these kids are just like me. Who's there to walk with them?
With a very different pipeline in place for them, yeah.
Yeah. And my faith truly informed that, because when I look at Jesus throughout Scripture, I see somebody who stands up for the marginalized, somebody who cares about those that most of society overlooks. And I felt like these were kids that society was giving up on and overlooking. And so I was like, I need to find a path to come alongside them.
Right.
And so when I left school, that's what I was planning on doing. I actually had my own 6-year plan of how I was going to work with kids in kind of a juvenile lockup scenario. I was going to work with kids in a more urban kind of poverty environment, and then I was going to do adventure-based counseling training.
You had it all figured out, yeah.
I did. I had the plan worked out. 6 years of all of that experience, and then I was going to launch my own organization and ministry and completely change the world. So, just small dreams, but it was
low-hanging fruit.
it was all about me, and I got derailed from that really early when I came to Water Street.
Okay.
And that was kind of a side thing. I had a job lined up for the fall, and I'm like, I got a summer free right after college. Maybe I could spend a little time. I had just learned there was a city of Lancaster, even though I spent 4 years on F&M's campus.
That's funny.
That's a whole nother story. F&M has evolved. So I realized, hey, this could be a good opportunity. I came down, worked that summer. They actually convinced me to stay in the fall because the youth program at Water Street was going through full turnover, no staff returning.
Right.
My boss was like, hey, could you stick around and help us rebuild the youth program? I was like, let me pray about it. I did. I came back. The kids were super excited when I first showed up. They're like, man, like, you're back. You were here like, you actually came back. Nobody does that. And they're like, this is going to be great. Within 2 weeks, I had a dozen kids ask me when I was leaving.
Oh, wow.
I was like, did I screw up? Like,
a little gut punch there.
Yeah, seriously. I thought it was about me.
Yeah.
I thought I had totally blown it, and they didn't like me. And so I pulled aside a couple kids that I knew from the summer, and I was like, what is going on? And they said, tell us when you're leaving. We know you're leaving. Everybody leaves.
Wow.
Tell us when, so we can know how much rope to give you.
They've come to expect it.
Because you keep talking about love and trust and relationship, and Jesus will never leave you and forsake you, and you're going to walk away like everybody else. So stop your BS.
Yeah, give it
and
to us
tell
straight. Yeah.
And I went home and I was like, I'm done. Like, I felt like I needed to either quit that day, because I had my plan. 2 years. I was going to give them 2 years, period.
Sure.
Then I was going to do my next 2 years, and then, because it was all about me. My vision for what I was going to do in the world was all based on
Interesting.
what I wanted, what I thought was best, and what I realized in that moment is that I was using those kids for my own purposes. And so many others had done the same thing. And I couldn't be a part of that. So I either needed to leave or I needed to throw out my plans.
Sure.
And I ended up, after a couple days of wrestling, I threw out my plans. And I just said, I'm willing to stay. I went to my boss. I said, I'll stay as long as you want me to stay. As long as you think I'm doing a good job, I'll be here. And 20-something years later, they asked me to take the president role at Water Street.
Wow, that's really profound. Was that a terrifying decision for you when you said, like,
I don't think I
have to go home?
realized the implications when I made it.
Okay, sure.
If I knew it meant that I was going to spend the next 30 years working at Water Street, living in this city. I bought a house on South Christian Street shortly after that. in the early 90s, which is when you did not buy houses on South Christian Street.
Right.
It was not a safe place to move in, and
Okay.
as everybody around me told me. And then raising my family in the city and everything. Like, if I knew all that, would I have had the courage to say yes? I don't know.
Hindsight is
I don't know.
20/20 sometimes.
But I think, like, again, I think God reveals what he needs to in that moment for us.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Nice. Wow, that's a long journey of work experience. I mean, you've been with Water Street Mission for over 30 years,
Yeah.
I would say. Yeah. So that first summer, I want to circle back to some of those really early formative experiences with you. You lived in the mission dorm alongside the men you were serving. Can you talk to us a little bit about
that was not my plan either.
Yeah, talk to us a little bit about what that experience was like.
I mean, at the end of the day, like, I graduated from F&M and I had a job in Lancaster, but I had no place to live. So technically I was homeless. I guess the mission's where you go, right? But
we're practicing what we're preaching. Okay.
But really what happened was I told the gentleman who hired me, his name was Wayne. I said, Wayne, like, I'm really excited to work for you, but I have a job lined up in Philly in the fall. I've got no place to live. I'm not going to commute from media for a day camp job. Can you help me? And so he, like, during that hiring conversation, he's like, oh, Water Street has so many supporters in this community. We've had lots and lots of college students come and work for us. We can always find a way to help put them up for the summer. We'll help you find housing. Show up. You know, this Monday is when orientation is. Starts at noon. You come at 9. We'll get you settled somewhere, and you'll have a place to stay for the summer. So in my head,
There's an apartment nearby.
There's a nice family. They've got, like, a little basement place.
Host family.
Mom's going to cook me dinner every night. This is going to be great.
Okay.
And so I show up at Water Street and get my bag out of the car, and I expect to jump in Wayne's car and go to this nice house in the suburbs.
All right, when's lunch?
And he walks me upstairs into the mission and says, you're going to stay in the men's dorm. You're going to stay with our guys. And so me and one other college student moved into a room with a whole bunch of guys from the mission and who had just come out of shelter and were trying to get their lives straight.
Yeah.
And so it was an amazing experience. I spent 2.5 months living with them.
Okay.
Learned so much. Got my butt whooped at chess every night.
Interesting.
Like, those guys could tear it up. And I thought I was smart. So I thought I knew how to play chess, and then, like, within a couple days I realized
Clearly you needed to be humbled.
So, but just learned so much. Like, so many of my stereotypes that I held about people experiencing homelessness were destroyed by spending that much time just living with the guys, hanging out. And I wasn't with them 24/7, but in the evenings, you know, I'd grab dinner in the mission dining hall and then go upstairs and just hang out in the common rooms with the guys and get to know them and hear their stories. And that really did shape me and help me understand, like, the thing that I could say in the back of my head is that we're all created in the image of God and worthy of dignity and respect, and we're all equal. Like, living in that experience, that those people that most often we overlook and maybe, you know, wonder what's different or what's wrong with them, that they're in this situation, was all, like, just destroyed through that experience.
Yeah.
So.
When you were in the initial stages of that kind of, like, deconstruction of preconceived notions, was that I would say an enlightening experience, definitely, but was it uncomfortable at first? What was your engagement with that feeling like?
That's an interesting question. That's a good one. I think in the moment it didn't shake me so much. I think the conversation with the kids shook me. Yeah. Because that was directed at me.
Yeah.
I think just living in that space, because I'd gone through the change, like, the high school I grew up in, even though I was in media, it's a suburb of Philly, was a very diverse school. And I played a lot of sports. So I had a lot of friends from all different socioeconomic classes and races, and we just hung together, and we were all the same. And then I went to a school where it was very homogenous. Yeah. There were a lot of international students, but they were usually wealthy international students, and then a lot of people who grew up in wealthy communities and private schools. And so that was more of a culture shock to me. Yeah. And then realizing, like, wow, how sheltered some people can be. And that, again, getting to the place where I'm, like, not judging them for that, but just saying, man, if I had grown up in that situation, that's how I would see the world. Yeah. And then being willing to walk with them. And then, you know, it's just another turn of the page to now spend time in hanging out with people in extreme poverty. And so I think I've always tried to have that perspective. So it didn't shake me in that way,
Sure.
but it was definitely eye-opening
Yeah.
and helped me get that next level of understanding.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. I want to dig a little bit deeper into like the ethos of Water Street Mission.
Sure.
So your programs really focus on root causes
Yeah,
of
yeah,
poverty
yeah.
and extreme cases, not just the symptoms of them.
Right,
I'd
right.
love to chat about how those root issues are different from the visible struggles that people are going through. Can
Yeah.
you tell us a little bit about what the mission's take is on that?
Well, I mean, I think with all of us, not just those experiencing homelessness, like the stuff you see on the surface isn't always what's
course.
going on,
Yeah.
right? We know that, like, what's going on. There's layers and layers of the things we experience growing up. There's layers and layers of what's going on in the dynamic, whether you're in the workplace or in the classroom or whatever. People are going to act a certain way, and we can make assumptions immediately about why they're doing that.
Sure.
And 90% of the time, we're going to be wrong.
The
But
power
with
of
Water
assumptions.
Street, I think that the key understanding that Water Street has developed, we've been around for 121 years now.
Wow.
This ministry's been in the
Okay.
same heartbeat of walking alongside people experiencing the worst moment of their lives, and entrusting that as we walk with them and as God walks with them, that their lives can be transformed.
Okay.
And so if we felt there was like one formula you're experiencing homelessness,
Yeah.
let's give you A, B, and C, and your life is going
Here's
to
our
be
12-step
fine.
program to fix your life.
Yeah, and there are a lot of those out there, right? But just realizing like everybody's journey is unique.
Yeah.
And so like even that summer that I was there, I met a guy who was a college professor whose marriage had fallen apart. His wife left him. He fell into depression, started drinking, lost his job, came back. He was actually a professor in Hawaii, of all places, had roots all over continental states, burned all those bridges because he just sank into this despair and depression and self-medicated with drugs and alcohol.
Yeah.
And he ended up at the mission in Water Street, master's degree, this far from his doctorate, had been a professor. I met lawyers. I met guys who had worked, the same job faithfully for years and years and years and years, and then a medical condition or an injury just derailed their path.
Yeah.
The stories, everybody met that story. I didn't hear the same story twice. And I think that's still the case.
Yeah.
And so knowing that, the idea that we could create one pathway for people to emerge from homelessness
Sure.
just feels wrong. And what we do know is we all need relationship. We all need hope. We've actually developed a way of kind of capturing all those essential criteria for people to thrive in life. We call them our foundational assets.
Okay.
And at the center of that is the hope that we have in Christ and in who He created us to be. But it also goes into everything from relationships to basic necessities to purpose.
Okay.
And when we look at an individual and we walk with an individual, to be able to identify what were all those things that led to this moment.
Yeah.
And rather than us charting the path we think is right, let's start unpacking those things that led to this moment,
Okay.
help you identify, and then walk with you on a journey of finding strength and healing and hope in those areas so that they can rebuild a life that's going to last.
Okay, so it's more of like a mentor relationship
Yeah,
there.
so
in that
even
sense?
like we changed our instead of having, men's counselors, women's counselors,
Sure.
or chaplains and shelter staff, we have life coaches. And so the whole focus of changing the name to life coaches a number of years ago is that it's about walking alongside.
Yeah.
Coaches don't always have all the answers.
Sure.
But they're there to guide you along the way, help you ask the right questions and make progress.
And there's all kinds of people that use life coaches, yeah?
Yeah. So, there are core programs that we have at the mission for those in shelter, those who choose the longer path of residential
Okay.
in order to overcome those issues.
Right.
So there are standard classes and everything that we offer, but it's really about that individualized journey and trying to help our guests when they're ready.
Yes.
Because they're not always ready to
Sure.
get to those root issues, but when they're ready to begin addressing those and begin rebuilding those foundational assets in their lives.
That's excellent that it's
Yeah.
so individualized for
Yeah.
people. I mean, their circumstances certainly are not the same.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
So when you took over leadership for Water Street Mission, the programs have expanded quite significantly, I would say. Wraparound services, helping with shelter, medical, dental care, education, youth programs, as you've mentioned.
Yeah.
Can you talk to me a little bit about what is driving that expansion for you?
Yeah.
How do you decide what all belongs under one roof, what is feasible, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So again, I think it goes back to our history.
Sure.
Water Street, the leader who was in place right before me, he was only with us for a brief time, trying to help us through a hard financial season. And he really wanted us to zero in on being the best shelter and maybe consider being a residential, like long-term residential program for homelessness.
Okay.
But like we were going to trim down and get rid of everything else.
Right.
Because a lot of these programs Water Street has done them historically. Our youth ministry started in the 70s. Our early learning center started in the late 80s.
Okay.
Our medical clinic started in 93, the same year that I started at Water Street. So those things have been around. And under his leadership, there was this moment where it was like, we need to trim it down to our core of who we are.
Yeah.
And to him, that was, it's shelter for those experiencing homelessness. It's food for people who are hungry. And he started us down that path, and it just didn't feel right to me. I'd been there 20 years at that point, and I was like, this isn't the mission that I know. This isn't who Water Street is. And so when he left and they invited me to consider being president, we had some conversations at a leadership level and a board level to say, who is Water Street? I dug into our history and really looked at what are these patterns? What led their decision making? Why did we add an early learning center? Why did we add youth? Why did we? And to me, it all came back to this one passage in the Bible. It's Isaiah 61. And it's a passage that Jesus actually quoted at the very beginning of his ministry.
Okay.
It's like the first thing we really hear Jesus say. And he reads Isaiah 61. So he comes to his hometown. There's little glimpses where it says, Jesus is saying the kingdom is near. And the first time we hear him describe what the kingdom is, it's when he goes to his hometown, he goes in the synagogue, opens up the scroll, he reads Isaiah 61, and he says, today this is fulfilled in your hearing. So it's basically Jesus is saying, this is why I'm here. This passage is what I am here for. And what it says in the Jack Crowley version, so I don't have my Bible handy, is, behold, I've come to bring good news to the poor, freedom to the captive, sight to the blind, hope to the hopeless, the oil of joy for those who are mourning. So there's this picture of people going through the worst moment of their lives. Blindness, prison, poverty, lack of hope, grief. I've come to bring hope in that moment.
Okay.
And then the next two verses say that those people going through the worst moment of their life, that they will become oaks of righteousness, a display for the splendor of the Lord, and that they might become restorers of the ruined cities. So there's this picture that Jesus says, this is why I came. And so like to me as a follower of Jesus, I need to do what he came to do, right? We have that same calling. It's to come alongside people going through the hardest moment of their lives and to bring hope into that space. Sometimes it's through material relief. Sometimes it's through like meeting those really hard needs in the moment, to bring hope, but then to walk with them on a journey that they might become oaks of righteousness, that they might become restorers of the ruined city, where they are out there changing their communities, lifting up others. And so that was the story that I saw all through Water Street's history.
Right. It circles back to the restored to be restored.
Yeah, and that's become our theme, but it's something that's been in the root and DNA of our organization all along. And so why do we do early learning? Why do we have this pre-K, K3, K4, and kindergarten program for low-income families? Because so many of those families don't have that opportunity. And we know the impact that it has when a child shows up at kindergarten and they're already 2 years behind their peers. And how hard it is for them to catch up, and the long-term implications on their family, on their own lives, and on their community when we don't have that. And so there are so many families. We have great early learning programs all around, but we don't have enough for all of those who can't afford to pay for private school on their own. And so we step into that gap and we say, we're going to be here for these people going through a really hard moment. That mom who's working 2 jobs and doesn't know, how am I going to help my 3-year-old learn to read when I can't afford to buy children's books? When I can't afford to send them to a good early learning center. And so we step into that space and we walk with that family. Same thing with our youth ministry. When I lived on South Christian Street, so many of the kids, the story that was so vibrant in my mind was, how often I would sit down with a group of, 13, 14-year-old boys and say, hey, what's your dream? Like, what do you want to be? Like, what's your dream for your life? And you'd hear one of two things. You'd hear, I'm going to be a professional athlete, maybe a rapper, and make millions and millions of dollars. Or I'm going to get a job at Dart Container or Y&S Candies, and I'm just going to do the same thing my parents have done, or my mom did, or my uncle did, because there was no vision for a pathway
beyond that. Yeah.
And so in that, and that's what they heard from so many people, especially back in the 90s. I'll be honest with you, there was a different view of the city, and of the 7th Ward, and of the communities that we were working with kids and continue to work with kids from. And there was a lot of just like, this is who you are and this is who you're going to be. Yeah. And that's what they heard from society.
And this is all you can
and
be
from the community.
Prescribed to
and
you. Yeah.
And I think, Attollo steps into that space, right? And says, no, you were created for more than this. Yeah. And what it takes is somebody to walk alongside you. And it's not that the parents didn't love and want great things for their kids. It's that when you're experiencing generational poverty, it's like, how much bandwidth do I have to do those things? And so to have an organization like our Water Street Youth Center and like our Wonder Academy, and to come alongside families in that. And then that leads to also those hard moments like experiencing homelessness. Families who are working but right on the edge of poverty and don't know if they're going to have enough food for this week and money for clothes for school for their kids. And so that's why we have our outreach ministries, and we come alongside families in that arena as well. So
really big picture of wellness, starting from like the bottom to the top.
Absolutely. Yeah. And really some people talk about it as a continuum. We don't always see the same people through all those phases, but we're there to kind of, wherever that moment happens, there's a connection point. If you're going through one of those hard moments, there's something at Water Street that can connect with you at that point.
I'm always curious when a guest comes on our show, is there ever a moment or a person or an experience that sticks with you, like a really standout one that you have? And you might have several of them. I'm sure you have plenty of stories of the people you've worked alongside and with. Is there one that really sticks out to you?
That's so hard to choose one.
I know.
Why would you make me do that?
I know,
That's
especially
like so
when we're
unfair.
in these professions where we see a lot of people regularly, we're helping a lot of people.
Yeah. I'll do two.
Okay.
And it's two that I've shared stories about before, but I think they're so emblematic.
Okay.
And there are news stories. There's a couple people right now that I
creating news stories.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a couple people right now I'd love to tell their story, but it's not finished yet.
Interesting.
But one of those kids that summer who told me, tell us when you're going to leave, because everybody leaves, was a kid named Jose, who, to watch his journey, where he actually was, before I was at Water Street, his family lived at the Mission. Okay. And then he bounced around. I don't know the exact number, but I know when I was walking with Jose, I know he lived in at least 5 different houses in a 6-year period. Okay. Just bouncing around, and actually left Lancaster for a while and came back, and just incredible instability within the family, everything. And just to see, once he kind of found his foundation and put his feet firm, he ended up coming to work for us. He ended up taking over what was now called Teen Haven, our youth ministry. Wow. So 10 years after he graduated, he was the director of Teen Haven. Now he's pastor of a church in the city here. Wow. He's invested in my kids. Yeah. And so talk about that restored to be restorers. Here's a kid that when he was 12 years old, I met him and he was a mess. He's the first kid to ever throw a stink bomb at me. Those old little like glass vial stink bombs on my birthday.
Oh my gosh.
I'm leading a devotion, very holy moment, talking to kids about Jesus. He sneaks up behind me and slaps me in the back of the neck with this little glass vial, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Really formative moments in your relationship.
I didn't even know those things existed. And so he was also the first kid I ever threatened.
Okay.
None of the Attollo staff have ever done that, right? It was a long time ago. He's forgiven me. But I did chase him.
Have you forgiven him?
Yeah.
We can revisit that when the cameras are off.
Yeah, we can talk about that later. No, I love Jose to death. And But yeah, to watch that journey.
A wonderful
so,
full circle moment,
coming
yeah.
out of, experiencing homelessness, the instability of his family, and he would talk about not just Teen Haven and Water Street, but he'd talk about others that stepped into his life in those moments.
Yeah.
The other is one of my best friends who's now my pastor, who I first met when he walked into Water Street with, I'm sorry to say this in public, this pair of ripped Daisy Duke shorts and a Chicago Cubs t-shirt, and that was all he owned. He had been working, as best as I can recall, he was working for kind of that fair circuit throughout Lancaster County in the fall. The dart games and all that stuff, and then drinking away his pay each day as he got paid in cash. He'd just, spend it on alcohol and drugs and just waste it. And he gets to the end of the fair season, he's like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? And a pastor said, go to the mission. And he showed up there, and I met him that fall right after I started. And just watching his journey of restoration, of how God transformed his life, and then how he's been used to bless others. He, again, later came on staff at Water Street. He ended up leading programs at a mission in Scranton, and then being the executive director of a mission in New Hampshire, which was amazing how he grew that from a one-person staff to a multi-person staff, and just growing, and then handed it off because he felt like there's somebody with different gifts that could take this on.
Oh, that's an
just
interesting
the
perspective.
insight to know like how God had gifted him and the abilities he had to say like, I'm not the guy to take it to the next level.
Wow.
And hand that to somebody else, and then come back to Lancaster and serve as pastor at our church. So Rick Rutter is an amazing guy, and his story is an example of what Water Street's all about.
Yeah. What an incredible skill to be able to recognize that people have different gifts that they can give to a mission from you, and being able to hand that off to someone and be comfortable with that.
And I think that's one of the biggest challenges when you're in a leadership role anywhere, is recognizing that, like, what is the season that I'm called to be leader for this organization? Like, that's a very real conversation that I want to have with my board, and I have had several times with my board to hold this position open. Like, I've been in this role for 12 years now.
Okay.
And to know, like, I believe I'm the right person for now. I believe I was the right person in that season, but I may not be the right person tomorrow. 2 years from now, we may need a different skill set. We may need a different kind of leader for the organization. Am I willing to believe that the organization's bigger than me, and trust that, you know what, I may not be the guy, and trust that there's going to be something else for me if I let it go, and believe that that's not just a me decision either. It's something that we need to do collaboratively with my board and my leadership team. That they're my boss. They let me go anytime. I'd love if it was done in a way where we could kind of come together and say, yeah, we're going into a new season. Jack, do you have the skills to do that? Are you the right guy or not? And maybe I'm not. And that's okay.
At the beginning of your experience with leadership, was it comfortable for you to take on that mantle and say, I am the right person for now?
No.
Or did that come to you later?
Yeah. Throughout my life, I feel like I've always been kind of thrown into unwanted leadership roles.
Interesting. Okay.
Like I've never, I don't know if I can say never, but in my recollection, like I can't recall a time that I pursued a title or a leadership role.
I'm so ready for this.
But it's just happened, right? Like, and it goes back to like silly little things, like in college, playing volleyball, and it was a club team, intercollegiate, playing other colleges, but we didn't have any money from the school is basically what it was, and they wouldn't pay for a coach full time, so we had volunteer coaches, and like, my junior year, like they named me captain and put me in this role, and then suddenly I've got to like coach and be captain and arrange all the things
manage
for transportation,
play, and
the money, all of that suddenly thrown on me. And just that's one example. There are 3 or 4 others in college and high school where I was just thrown into leadership positions that I never really asked for, but people were like, Jack, why don't you do this?
Someone
Jack,
points at you and
that?
says, you're ready for this.
Same thing, like that summer that I came to Water Street, I was just a summer camp counselor. And then I get asked to, will you be stay with us, be part of our program in the fall, be like a boys program counselor. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. I show up back when I found my own apartment, moved out of the mission. And he's like, hey, by the way, the guy that we wanted to be the supervisor of all the youth programs, he ended up taking another job. So we'd like you to be I'm like, I'm 22 years old.
Yeah.
I know nothing about youth ministry. Like I could do day camp with a group of 12 guys, 20 guys, but like, you want me to run this whole program?
And being 22 years old in the workforce in any field is terrifying.
And so I'm overseeing 4 staff. I've got 250 kids coming through our door all week long.
Sure.
I had no idea what I was doing, but I was thrown into this leadership role. And then multiple times since then where just there's vacuums, people point to me and put me in. And so I think that fact makes it really easy for me to say, like, if I'm not the right guy, like, because it wasn't something that was like I pursued because I wanted it for my own identity. Like, I want to be a leader. I want to be in charge of this. Like, okay, I'll do it if you need me to.
Sure. Does that affect your leadership style? Like, I hear terms in different industries all over the place, like servant leadership and faith-informed leadership. And so how does that intersect for you?
Well, I think that's a big part of it, because it's really hard if you've been desiring authority or a mantle or a title. It's really hard. How do you pivot from the kind of the ambition it takes to get there to suddenly like being collaborative and invitational and being a servant leader, where you're willing to kind of, in true servant leadership, I mean, sometimes I believe means sometimes actually even setting aside your priorities and your good for the sake of your team and others. And so that's really hard to do if you've just spent the last 3 years doing all the right things and making all the right moves to get here.
Achieving.
And then suddenly, now I'm going to be a servant leader. Whereas if you're kind of like thrown into it, you're like, I don't really want this. But like, I never wanted to be president of a mission.
Sure.
Never once in my life plan did I ever sit down and say, oh, that's the end goal.
Yeah.
And so now that I'm there, I'm like, okay, how do I carry this? And there may be some negatives that come with that as well. So my leadership team might say, yeah, you know what, you could be a little bit more of a D on the disc profile, a little bit more of directive and a little bit more decisive and push some things, whereas I'm more like, no, what's for the good of the whole?
Yeah.
And sometimes that slows things down.
Sure.
Especially if you're surrounded by people who are Ds. Do you guys know the disc profile?
I'm
some
eager
of you do.
to learn more about these personality tests.
It's a leadership style inventory, and D is kind of like the driver and
so you've got to incorporate more of that.
Well, I don't know, because I've got enough of them around me.
Okay. So a balance.
So I'm trying to balance that out.
Excellent.
But it might frustrate them a little bit.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I do have some questions that will take us to the end of our interview, but I do want to open us up to some crowd questions. I know that there are plenty of people here who have wonderful things they'd like to ask you. So if we could circulate some microphones, I'd like to start that process now. Sure. Can we pass back to the middle?
Well, first of all, thank you for coming. So you have mentioned you worked with juvenile detentions, and as we know, sometimes it might be difficult to manage teenagers depending on their situation and their stories. Was there a time that you had a rough challenge or believe you failed one of the people at the juvenile detention, and how did you overcome the situation?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I did a lot of interviewing of kids at juvenile detention. I never worked in a juvenile detention center, but a lot of the kids that I worked with, I'll take that question and turn it to the years that I ran our youth center in the city. Absolutely, there are times where I feel like I screwed up big time. And some of them are those momentary things, like the night that I caught an elbow from one of the kids and he broke my nose. And I don't think I handled the build up to that moment very well. I learned a lot the first time I got my nose broken by a teenager. Like I look back and, there are times where I wished for so much more for some of those kids, and I look back on it, I'm like, could I have walked with them in a different way? And I think that's part of what formed me in how I move forward, making sure that our approach to our programs and the way we equip our staff, we can't own it. Like the outcomes of all those kids that I walked with, like I don't own those outcomes at the end of the day. They still had choices to make. They still had opportunities. could I have been more relationally supportive and less kind of directive in my early years, where I, was trying to, it was about, if I could get them the right information, if I could tell them the right things and get that information into their brains, then they're going to see these outcomes and these results. Much less I had very little understanding at that time of what it meant to just kind of maybe model and walk with. Even though I was not living in the same circumstances as them, I could still come alongside them on their journey and not be quite as, I think I was a little too judgmental early on. Was ready to get frustrated with the kids when they'd make those bad choices. When I see them making progress and then they take a step back, I'm like ready to give up on them. And I don't know, there was ever a time I walked away from a kid, but my verbal responses, my body language in that moment may have done more damage, and just piled on. They already knew they screwed up. Like, realizing that those moments when the kid would come and say, like, hey, man, this is what happened, like, that was a sacred moment, that they trusted enough to tell me that this is what was going on. And I responded with, like, how could you do something so stupid, right? Like, instead of like, oh my gosh, how does that feel? Like, how are you feeling about that now that you've experienced that and the repercussions of it? And just coming alongside of them. I was too judgmental in the early years. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, thank you so much. I really appreciated it. I'm just curious, when you're walking alongside people, especially during like these hard times in their life, I can imagine like this is the first time for a lot of them that they've had someone believe in them and they've had someone like see them. And so I'm wondering, how do you help them or get them to imagine like a different future for themselves? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, that's tough because, and a lot of times there's a moment in that journey relationally, I think, where sometimes you are the one who's seeing it for them. And a lot of times you have to see it for them before they can see it for themselves. And I think that's one of the great blessings in my role is I hear so many of our guests say that some version of that same thing. Like, I never had hope for my future, but this person did. And they'll name that life coach or that case manager or that teacher who walked with them in that season. And to me, I'm like, oh my gosh, we're getting it, right? When you hear the individual reflect back, like that they're seeing, like, this is what was holding me back, but you saw something for me before I could see it for myself. And now I'm beginning to see it. There's a woman there was a beautiful video that we just did for one of our events, and that was kind of her thing at the end, where she's like, I always used to beat myself up because I didn't think I was a good mom. And she's like, and you guys are telling me that I'm doing a great job, and that it's amazing how much they can see I love my kids. And she, like, you just saw her whole aura changed as she was talking about how others believed in her. So yeah, that's such a huge part of it. We're blessed at Water Street to have so many people who their hearts are so in this that they're doing that every day for our guests. They're seeing hope for them before they can see it for themselves. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks.
Hey, thank you so much for coming. Yeah. My question is, what is the biggest thing or one thing that you have seen that has changed or improved within the organization or about the community since you started until today?
Yeah, wow, there's a lot. Stick around long enough. So
That's good that there's a lot.
yeah, no. I think the thing, and that's had the biggest mark, maybe, and people have noticed the most too. And this goes to my predecessor, actually, who I had a lot. We disagreed on a ton, but there was something that he inserted into our mindset at Water Street in his brief time there that we've carried forward. And that was that every person who walks through our door is created in the image of God, is worthy of dignity, value, and respect. And I believe our staff has shown that for 120 plus years. Like, they've always engaged with people on a personal level, but our facilities and even maybe some of our program design didn't. right? And so back in the day when I first started at Water Street, like it was a place that people could go and they were warm and they had food. Now it's a place you walk into and you feel welcome, and it feels warm in an environmental sense, not in a temperature sense. And like I am so proud of our team and how they've invested in creating spaces that communicate dignity and value and respect to our guests. Our emergency shelter does not look like an emergency shelter anywhere else. It's still a congregate shelter, but it's the materials, the design, the space itself all communicates dignity to our guests. And the way they check in, it's like a hotel check-in room, our access center where people come in for their first encounter with us to seek help. You know, it used to be the gray wall with a window where you had to pass your papers underneath and talk through a little hole. And now it's wide open and warm, and there's wood tones, and there's friendly staff greeting them. It feels like a hotel lobby. And there's a fountain in the corner, and you can sit and just chill while you're waiting for your appointment. It's all about recognizing the humanity in each person and the image of God in them. Yeah.
Thank you. Let's do one more audience question. Yes, please. Thank you.
I appreciate you sharing your story, but I do have a question. With your experience as in a leadership role as big as this, is there anything you would tell your younger self or advice you would give based on where you are today?
That's like one of those questions that like I should know is coming. And it's so hard even when you ask it. So, what would I tell my younger self? That's hard to know. I think, to be patient with myself, because you're going to make mistakes along the way. You're going to miss things as you're trying to lead, especially if you're trying to lead with people and not just drive your own agenda and you want to be collaborative. You're not always going to see things clearly. And so one, don't try to do it alone. Surround yourself with good people. And two, be patient about the process, but also be patient with yourself. That you're going to make mistakes along the way and learn from them. Take everything you can from that moment. Don't get down on don't beat yourself up because you screwed up. But grab a hold of that for what the opportunity you can learn from it. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. I did miss a question in the corner of my eye over here, so we'll do one more.
I think we all know that homelessness is very complex.
Yeah.
Right? And even Water Street Rescue Mission is only so big. So can you talk about the coalition?
Oh my gosh,
Crowley?
yeah.
I think that's something that has really changed
Yeah.
over the years, and how so many other organizations also help each other to do this work.
Yeah.
And the role you all play and you play in that.
Yeah, and that's a change in the community and at Water Street too, because I think years ago, Water Street held a little bit more of an isolated posture of kind of like we're going to do our thing, and others can do theirs, and maybe somehow together that'll make a difference. But we're going to do it our way, and on our own, and that has changed dramatically over the years. But I think you're right. There's more need in our community, not just around homelessness, but around poverty, around investing in the youth and our community of tomorrow. Goes way beyond what Water Street can do. And so one, it starts with recognizing that, and then we have an amazing coalition of organizations that all kind of we're blessed in Lancaster County with the willingness to engage and connect and collaborate together. To sometimes even say, hey, you guys are doing this really, really well. We're not going to step into your space. Can we refer people? Can we connect people? Can we partner? Because you guys do this really well. And we don't want to just replicate that and maybe do it half as well as you. Like, let's find a way to collaborate and partner. And that happens all the time, and we're so grateful for partners like Tenfold and the Food Hub and now the YMCA playing a role over at the Clay Street Shelter. Like, there's so much need. And as we all kind of play our role, Water Street's in a space where we can invite people for a long journey. our residential, we have shelter, but we also have residential where people can stay with us for up to a year and a half. And then even beyond that, we're starting these intentional communities to help people on that journey back into connecting into community. And others are doing just emergency shelter, and others are doing street outreach, and others are doing food programs. And it takes all of us to address those needs. And so I'm grateful for the leaders of those organizations, their spirit of collaboration. And Lancaster, we haven't solved it. I think, I don't know if we'll ever solve it, but I think, can we create an environment where people have opportunity and they're cared for, and there's a great network that's there to say, hey, when you're ready, we're here to walk with you. And I think that's what's growing here in Lancaster.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much for your questions. I do have some quick closers before we end our time together. This has been an amazing talk so far. So we'll start on the inspirational side. We always like to circle back to perspective for our scholars. So students that are young, they might be heading off to college or a trade school or entering the workforce after graduation. And for students who may be unsure of their life path or looking for some encouragement and inspiration, give us your closing thoughts that you'd like to give the next generation of students, looking to help the community, maybe looking to get involved. Give us something of a tidbit.
I think, so I have young adult daughters who are a lot, they're in the same phase of life, right? So one's about to finish her master's degree, 2 are entering their senior year of college.
Congratulations.
Another one's, kind of in her career now and having her second child. It's amazing to watch.
Ah, wonderful.
So I've thought a lot about this. I think the one thing is, don't put the pressure on yourself to know what you're going to do for the rest of your life today. It's okay. I remember my kids going to McCaskey, and I love McCaskey. We had a great experience there. But in 8th grade, they had to choose their small learning community. This is the path I'm going to do for the rest of my life. And it's they're in 8th grade.
Shout out all the McCaskey people here.
I'm 40-something years old, and I still don't know, right? I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do for the rest of my life. So don't put that pressure on yourself. Take the journey and take that first step. Learn what you can. I don't know anybody who, other than me, I think that has been at the same place since they graduated from college, right? I got this job, but even I left for 3 years and worked in affordable housing, and then came back. The idea that you're going to know, the day you graduate from high school, the day you graduate from college, that this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, and I'm going to find fulfillment in that. Don't put that pressure on yourself. Take that first step, enjoy the journey. And I'd say the same thing. If I want to have an impact in my community, don't look for the perfect fit. Don't look for, it's got to have all these things. And just do something. Take that first step. Learn from it. You'll make mistakes along the way. You'll have horrible experiences. Volunteering for some organization, you'll be like, that was terrible. What was it like? Ugh. But you're gonna grow from that, right? You might get a job out of college and it might be horrible. I've learned more from bad bosses than I've learned from good bosses. I think that shaped me more, and that goes all the way back to my high school jobs. I had a couple terrible bosses in high school, and I learned so much from them about how not to lead. And that's sometimes way more important than trying, because you find somebody who's a great boss and then you want to be just like them, but you're not them, and that doesn't go right. But you can learn what not to be. So just take a step. Take a step.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I do have one final question for you that is on a lighthearted note, a bit of fun for us to end out. So outside of Water Street, you lead worship at Crossroads Mennonite on guitar. You can solve a Rubik's Cube in under a minute and a half, I'm told. So it would not be Attollo if we didn't have Rubik's Cubes. You're welcome to play with one of these later. I won't make you do it on camera.
I can prove it to the group if they need
Excellent.
evidence.
And you
not
apparently...
a minute and a half, though. It's 2.5 minutes.
Oh, okay. Generous. We're being humble today. You apparently have a talent for balancing things on your chin.
Yes.
Can you say more about this?
Yeah, that's weird. I think it started at the camp that I worked at. Somebody was just like, "Hey, man, can you We were cleaning. Sure. It was in the dining hall at the camp, and we were just bored and tired of sweeping, and so I just took the broom and I started balancing it on my chin, and I could balance it on my chin and hold it up there for a good long time, and then they're like, "Oh, can you do this? Can you do that?" And and I had never done it before. So they started like giving me objects to try to balance.
Missed
and
potential
like,
in the circus, I guess.
seriously. So like the best, a folding chair. I was able to, an open folding chair, balance on my chin and hold it up for about 20 seconds. And then recently we were doing this thing at my church one day, just totally random. And there was a break of, it was mostly a kids talent show. And we needed like a time filler. So I grabbed my guitar. I was like, I wonder if I can balance my guitar on my chin.
Oh
and so
my gosh.
I did. And I was able to balance it for about 20 seconds and keep it up there.
In
so
a past
like
life you were a SEAL.
I have
Yeah.
no idea where it came from. But I'm grateful for it. It's an important gift.
Wonderful skills to take with us. Well, thank you so much
Again,
for
off
spending
camera,
the
if you want
time
me to
here.
try, I could. It's
Yes,
been a while. It's
we'll
been
be,
a while.
We'll be seeing the evidence in the lobby later. Thank you so much for spending your time with us here today.
Yeah.
We really, really appreciate you being
That was
here.
a lot
Can I
of
get
fun.
one final round of applause for our guest today?